Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here. Got another Master Duel video for you. Coming at you with another one of these Let's Talk About videos. We're going to be going over K9, which is the last of the Justice Hunters archetypes that has not been released into Master Duel yet. The other ones, of course, being Dracotail and Yummy. So there's a decent likelihood that these will be coming into Master Duel at some point in the near future. I can't officially or otherwise confirm this. I have no knowledge of that. But I still think it's important to cover these cards because they will be very important whenever they do come out. Plus, we talked about Vanquish Soul recently, and these cards are going to be used in conjunction with Vanquish Soul. But K9 is used in more than just Vanquish Soul. This is a very strong series of cards that can be used to not only support rank 5 plays for various decks, including Crystron, but also you can even just use it as a hand trap engine, a smaller package, even in decks like Yummy. So regardless of what deck you're playing, you'll definitely want to be aware of these K9 cards, because even if you don't use them, you're going to be seeing them a lot. It's very important to keep them in mind. Before we get into it, just want to give a huge thanks to YouTube members in particular who got to see this video and other helpful content like the Let's Talk About Vanquish Soul video early due to their YouTube membership. Every single upload is made available for YouTube members before it is posted publicly. So if you're interested in getting that content early as well as some members only content, make sure to hit that join button next to subscribe. Greatly appreciate all the support, and you're also thanked by name at the end credits of every video. But let's not waste any more time. Let's go ahead and get right on into it. Starting with the K9 monsters themselves, we're going to start with K917 Izuna. This is a level 5 Earth Warrior monster with 2100 attack, 1600 defense. It says if your opponent has 2 or more cards in their hand, you can normal summon this card without tributing. That's going to be the case for pretty much every K9 main deck monster, as they are all level 5. You can only use each of the following effects of K917 Izuna once per turn. During the main phase, if your opponent has activated a monster effect in the hand or graveyard this turn, quick effect, you can special summon this card from your hand. If this card is normal or special summoned, you can send one K9 card from your deck to the graveyard, except K917 Izuna. So this is going to be one of the most important cards for the K9 strategy, regardless of if you're using a more dedicated K9 deck or if you're just using the smaller hand trap package. You're gonna want as many copies of this card as possible. I actually, at the time of recording this, I don't have any knowledge of this or not, but I have a feeling this card might even get semi-limited upon release. So I'm going to put that you want 3 copies here, but if it does come in semi-limited, then of course we'll just have the 2. Regardless, this card is very important. It might not seem like it on the surface, but its ability to send a K9 card from the deck to the graveyard will make a lot more sense when we talk about our next monster. This card enables turn 0 plays. Spoiler alert, for the next card, you'll be able to make a rank 5 on your opponent's turn, which of course can be one of the K9 rank 5s, which can negate certain monster effects. It can be other rank 5s that can potentially turn cards face down as a quick effect. So, like I said, can be used as a hand trap or turn 0 plays, very similar to the Dracotail Phimena in that deck. Of course, the caveat is that your opponent has to have activated a monster effect in the hand or graveyard. There are plenty of combo lines out there that do this. And also, if your opponent uses a hand trap against you during your turn 1, you'll be able to then special summon Izuna and set up a rank 5 play during your turn. So this card really does it all. It's one of the best K9 cards, and if you're at all interested in playing this archetype, you're gonna have to play the max number of copies legal, whether it's 3 or if they do end up semi-limiting this card on release, which again I think could happen. Regardless, just get as many as you possibly can. Very important card. K900 Lupis is a level 5 Earth Beast Warrior effect monster with 2,300 attack and 200 defense. An Xyz monster that has this card as material gains this effect. Your opponent cannot target this card with card effects. You can only use each of the following effects of Lupis once per turn. During the main phase, if your opponent has activated a monster effect in the hand or graveyard this turn, quick effect. You can special summon this card from your hand or graveyard, but banish it when it leaves the field. During your opponent's turn, you can, quick effect, immediately after this effect resolves, Xyz summon using this card you control. So this is used in conjunction with the Izuna, and of course it makes a lot more sense now just how this works with Izuna to set up turn 0 plays, right? It's got the same activation condition to summon from the graveyard that Izuna had to summon from hand. Of course, when Izuna summoned from hand, you'll send Lupis to the graveyard, Lupis will summon itself, and then, as a quick effect, you can then Xyz summon. Not only that, but whatever you summon won't be able to be targeted by card effects, and because Lupis is also quick effects on both the effects here, this lets you dodge targeting effects very, very easily, which is really handy, extremely nice. So that means that you have a lot of resilience playing into your opponent's stuff, even as you're playing on their turn 1. You'll only generally need 1 copy of this card, because you always want to send it from your deck to the graveyard off the Izuna. Although this can be summoned from hand, which is nice because then it's on a dead draw, you would obviously prefer to send it from the deck to the graveyard. So, very important one of, but because it's so searchable, you do only need the 1 copy. That said, if you're playing the hand trap package, you will need the 1 copy of Lupis. Regardless if you're playing just the smaller hand trap package or the larger K9 package, 1 copy of Lupis will definitely be required. K9 66A Jokul is a level 5 Dark Aqua effect monster with 2000 attack and 1900 defense points. As always, if your opponent has 2 or more cards in their hand, you can normal summon this card without tributing, like a lot of the other K9 cards. You can only use each of the following effects of Jokul once per turn. You can reveal this card and 1 other level 5 monster in your hand. Special summon both, but they cannot be used as material for the Xyz summon of a light monster. During your main phase, you can add 1 non-Aqua K9 monster from your deck to your hand. So Jokul is going to be another very important card for K9, but for the more dedicated package. If you're just playing the hand trap package of Izuna Lupis, you don't need to include Jokul or a lot of the other K9 cards we're going to talk about. But however, Jokul is extremely good for any deck that's playing level 5 monsters. That's why I mentioned Crystron earlier, has a lot of level 5 monsters, as well as Vanquish Soul, has the new Holly Sue, as well as Xiaolong are both level 5, which is another reason why K9 and Vanquish Soul play so well together. So, if you're playing the more extended K9 package, you'll definitely want as many copies of this as you can get. Jokul has even been limited in both the TCG and OCG. As a result, much like Izuna, I wouldn't be surprised if this card came into Master Duel at 2. So I'll say play the max number of copies that you are able to play. I'll put 3 here because we don't know for sure yet, but I would not be surprised if this came into the game at 2. But one of the things that makes Jokul so good is the fact that not only can you special summon any level 5 monster from hand, but also the only restriction that's put on it is that you can't Xyz summon specifically a light Xyz monster. You can summon any other rank 5 with it, and note, you can still make a Link monster with this as well. That's one of the reasons why Saryua's Skull Dread is so easy to set up in K9 decks, is because of how many extenders you have that only lock you out of this very specific light, Xyz monster restriction. Excellent card, and again, if you're playing a dedicated K9 package, you'll want the max number of copies possible. Don't need it for the hand traps, but I'll put 3 copies here just because of how important it is to K9 specifically. K966B Lantern is a level 5 Dark Pyro effect monster with 2000 attack and 1900 defense. As always, if your opponent has 2 or more cards in their hand, you can normal summon this card without tributing. You can only use each of the following effects of Lantern once per turn. If this card is in your hand, you can target 1 level 5 non-Pyro K9 monster in your graveyard, special summon both it and this card, but they cannot be used as the material for the Xyz summon of a light monster. During your main phase, you can add 1 K9 spell or trap card from your deck to your hand. So this is going to be another extender for the deck, and it's what you'll often be searching off of the Jokul that we just took a look at, right? This is the counterpart, of course, 66A and 66B. This will let you further extend by searching a K9 spell or trap card, and also by summoning a level 5 monster out of the graveyard. So what you'll often want to do is, summon Jokul with another level 5 monster, Jokul effect, add Lantern, then you can overlay that level 5 with Jokul, Then after that, you can use whatever rank 5 you summon's effect, detaching one of your level 5s, which Lantern can then summon back along with itself, and then add, again, another Canine spell or trap card. So very, very good amount of extension that this engine has. And again, you can see why it's so good, especially with any deck that plays level 5 monsters. Because this one is searched, you don't need necessarily a full playset of it. I'll say you can play 1 or 2. In my research, I saw builds that were on both 1 or 2. 1 makes sense because it's just searching, off of Jokul anyway, but 2 also makes sense for just how much extension this card offers. Like, it's not bad to open this in your opening hand. Like, even if you don't open Jokul, you could open like Izuna plus Lantern, right? And then still make more plays. So, yeah, 1 or 2, I'll say. Optional extender as far as like how many copies you can play, but mandatory in that you always want to play at least 1. Alright, the last main deck monster is going to be K904 Noroi. This is going to be a level 5 Earth Machine effect monster, 2000 attack, 1500 defense. If your opponent has 2 or more cards in their hand, you can normal summon this card without tributing. You can only use each of the following effects of Noroi once per turn. If this card is normal summoned, you can special summon 1 non-machine canine monster from your deck, but you cannot special summon from the extra deck except canine monsters while you control that face-up monster. You can send 1 face-up canine card you control to the graveyard. Look at your opponent's hand. So this is a piece of follow-up support. It wasn't actually in Justice Hunters, it was in a later set. But much like Marshmallow and, other follow-up Dracotale cards, I'm going to kind of assume we're going to get this card in the same wave of support. So I still wanted to talk about it here. We're going to talk about all the canine cards, but this one is a very interesting optional starter for the deck. You can really play any number from 0 to 3, but the thing that's worth noting about it is that you'll only get to summon a canine monster from deck if you normal summon this. So that's kind of why some people choose not to play it, is that it forces you to use your normal summon. Also does lock you into canine, which isn't that big of a deal because it's only while you control that monster. So you could go into a canine Exceeds monster right away, or you could also, if you wanted to, send that canine card you control to the graveyard and then look at your opponent's hand, which is a very interesting option. If you have other extenders in hand, you could take a peek and then see what kind of hand traps you're up against. Very cool effect, very cool card. If you're playing like a pure canine deck, then yeah, you would definitely want to max out on this. And there are some other decks that use canine as an engine that do play 2 or even 3 of this card, but I'm going to put 0 to 3 because I think this is a very optional starter. You just want to note not only that it takes your normal summon, but again, the restriction that you are locked into canine while whatever it summons out is on the field. Alright, let's start getting into the extra deck monsters, the Xyz monsters for the Canine archetype, beginning with K917 Ripper. This is a rank 5 Wind Warrior Xyz effect monster with 2,300 attack and 1,800 defense points. Materials are 2 level 5 monsters, so it is generic. You can detach 1 material from this card, add 1 canine card from your deck to your hand. Then, if your opponent has activated a monster effect this turn, you can set 1 canine quick play spell from your deck or graveyard. When your opponent activates a monster effect in the hand or graveyard, quick effect, you can detach 1 material from this card, negate that effect. You can only use each effect of K917 Ripper once per turn. So, Ripper is an excellent monster for the archetype, and it's obvious why. This card is crazy. It allows you to not only search up potentially multiple cards during your turn, but it also can negate during your opponent's turn, but also it can stop hand traps during your turn as well. A lot of the canine lines that make you Nibiru-proof are because you begin with this, or at least you summon this within the first, 5 summons. So K917 Ripper is hugely important to the canine archetype. Pretty much any canine deck will want to play at least 1, but I did see quite a few like canine Vanquish Soul builds in particular, and especially pure canine builds that were on 2 copies. So if you pull a second copy, it's definitely worth hanging on to. But it really can't be understated just how much this lets you set up, right? Like, Imagine a scenario where your opponent uses a hand trap on your turn 1, and you have Izuna in hand. You can special Izuna, send Lupis, special Lupis, overlay into this Ripper, and then you will be able to not only add another Canine card from deck to hand, but also set a quick play spell from your deck on your turn 1 if you got hand trapped. And then Ripper also protects you from further hand traps. Just an insane card overall. Definitely should consider this in pretty much any build that's playing Canine cards. Even if you're playing the hand trap package, you don't always have to play this, but you should definitely, if you have room, consider playing a copy. Just an excellent card overall. Alright, going into another of K9's rank 5s, K900 Hound is a light rank 5 Beast Warrior Exceeds effect monster with 2500 attack and defense, 2 level 5 monsters, cannot be destroyed by battle or your opponent's card effects the turn it is special summoned. Each time your opponent activates a monster effect, this card gains 500 attack when that effect resolves. Once per turn, during the standby phase, you can detach 1 material from this card, then target 1 card on the field and banish it. So this is much weaker than Ripper, and as a result, most builds just choose not to play it. Even pure pure Canine does not often play Hound, and pure Canine is really not one of the preferred ways to play this deck. We'll talk about, later in the video all the different ways to play Canine, but yeah, I would say this card is highly, highly optional, and only in builds where you have a ton of extra deck space would I really consider it, because it is really situational when this card is going to be good, right? All of its effects are situational in themselves. The protection is only the turn it's summoned, it can gain attack, but only when your opponent activates monster effects, and it can only banish cards during the standby phase, which is not the most ideal timing. So I would say generally you can avoid this one. If you have a ton of extra deck space and you are really, really looking for another rank 5, then yeah, you could consider it, but for the most part, I would say just don't play this one. K966X Jax is a Dark Fiend rank 5 Xyz monster with 2600 attack, 2500 defense, 2 level 5 monsters. If this card is Xyz summoned, or if your opponent activates a monster effect in the hand or graveyard, you can detach 1 material from this card, then target 1 monster on the field, destroy it. You can only use this effect of Jax once per turn. A Canine Xyz monster that has this card as material gains this effect. During any turn in which your opponent activated a monster effect in the hand or graveyard, any battle damage this card inflicts to your opponent is doubled. So Jax is another follow-up card from outside of Justice Hunters, so there's no guarantee we'll get it, but still very important and wanted to cover it here. This is a much better one of to have as opposed to the Hound we just looked at, right? This one's also kind of situational in that it's better like going second or during turn 3 or something like that, but it has some very useful effects, right? Being able to destroy monsters on the field, and also if it's used as a material, it can set up some OTK scenarios, which we'll cover here in a little bit, how you can use a rank 5 as a material for another Canine Xyz monster. But this is also useful during your opponent's turn, right? If they're activating effects in their hand or graveyard as part of their combo line, you can start popping monsters on their field, and then that'll, disrupt their line. Either way, it's a very solid rank 5. I still think Ripper is better, but this card is definitely better than Hound. And you will, I think, want 1 copy for pretty much any of the more dedicated Canine decks. K9X Werewolf is a rank 9 light Beast Warrior Xyz effect monster with 3300 attack and 2500 defense. Materials are 2 level 9 monsters. While this card has material, it can attack a number of times each battle phase, up to the number of materials attached to it. When your opponent activates a card or effect, quick effect, you can detach 1 material from this card, then activate this effect, depending on whose turn it is. If it's your turn, banish up to 1 card from each your opponent's field and graveyard. If it's your opponent's turn, look at your opponent's hand and banish 1 card from it face up until the end phase. You can only use this effect of K9X Werewolf once per turn. So this is like the big boss monster. of the K9 deck. And again, we'll talk about how you can go into a rank 9 in this archetype here shortly. It's going to be through some of your spell or trap support. But this is definitely a card you're going to want in your K9 extra deck if you are playing one of those spell cards that lets you go into it. Because this card is insanely good at not only OTKing, but also disrupting the opponent. It's very modular in that regard, and it can do either very effectively. Especially, remember Jax that we just read? Yeah, if Werewolf here has Jax as a material, not only are you able to attack multiple times, but your battle damage is going to be doubled, which is insane. The multiple attack effect is also worth noting that it's just multiple attacks. It's not against monsters. This card can attack directly even multiple times, which is obviously really good. But yeah, summoning it during your opponent's turn, very good as well. As your opponent's comboing and activating not any monster effect, just any card or effect, then you can look at their hand and totally disrupt their combo line. So very, very good card. You'll definitely want one copy for any K9 deck that's going to be playing any of the spell or trap cards that can summon this out. K9X Ripper M is another rank 9 for the archetype that's actually not out in the TCG yet. So this one I'm actually less certain if we're going to get in this wave of support. I would expect it to come out later, but I wanted to cover it anyway, just in case it does come out here, and just so you're aware of it, in case it comes out in the future. This is going to be a Wind Beast rank 9 Xyz monster, 3100 attack, 2600 defense, 2 level 9 monsters. If this card attacks a defense position monster, inflicts piercing damage to your opponent. You can only use each of the following effects of K9X Ripper once per turn. Ripper M, once per turn. If this card is special summoned by a K9 spell or trap card effect, you can target up to 2 cards in your opponent's graveyard and or banishment, shuffle them into the deck. When your opponent activates a monster effect, quick effect, you can detach 2 materials from this card, negate that effect, then destroy all cards on the field. So this is another decent rank 9 option to go into. Although I will say when it comes to both OTKing and also honestly being used as disruption, I do think that the Werewolf is better. I will say that negating a monster effect and also board wiping is good, but it destroys all cards on the field, so that's going to include yours as well, which is not ideal a lot of the time. The summon effect, is fine, but pretty situational. From what I can tell in the OCG, this is really only used in pure K9 builds, which again, pure K9 is not necessarily the best way to play this deck. So if you do want to play pure K9 and this is out, I would consider playing one copy, but I would say just avoid it for most K9 decks. Even in pure, it's very optional. Alright, going into the K9 spell and trap support, we're going to start with the continuous spell card, a case for K9. This card says when this card is activated, you can add 1 K9 monster from your deck to your hand. K9 monsters you control gain 900 attack during any turn in which your opponent has activated a monster effect in the hand or graveyard. If this card in the spell and trap zone is destroyed by a card effect, you can set 1 K9 quick play spell from your deck or graveyard. You can only use this effect of a case for K9 once per turn, and you can only activate a case for K9 once per turn. Very important card for K9. One thing I saw that was pretty interesting is that in a lot of cases, how many copies, this card plays is kind of dependent on the format. I mean, in the TCG, it's about to get limited, but in the TCG, it's also used in 3 in most decks. But I noticed in the OCG, in Vanquish Soul in particular, right? In TCG, K9 Vanquish Soul builds, they tended to play 3 of this card. Sometimes 2, but mostly 3. But in the OCG, they actually preferred to play only 1 in K9 Vanquish Soul. So that's kind of interesting. For Crystron, they were still playing 3, though, and pretty much every other build. So I'm going to put 1 to 3, I guess, because it really could be any number. But regardless of how many copies you play, if you are playing a K9 package, a more dedicated one, then you're absolutely going to want to play, a case for K9, regardless of how many copies. But yeah, if this card does end up being a UR and you don't necessarily pull a full playset and you're on more of a budget, I would say, if you've got 1 or 2, just start with that and see how you like it. And then if you decide you want more consistency, then you could maybe think about crafting more copies. But this card is very good, not just for searching canine monsters, but even the destroy effect is actually going to be highly relevant for most canine setups. So definitely want to grab this card for sure. But again, any number between 1 to 3 really could be feasible. K9X, Forced Release. This is going to be one of the quick play spells and the one they're going to use most often. It says, during the main phase, target one K9 Xyz monster you control. Special summon from your extra deck one K9 Xyz monster with a different name by using that monster you control as material. This is treated as an Xyz summon and transfer its materials to the summoned monster. Then, you can destroy one card your opponent controls. At the end of the battle phase, if your K9 monster battled this turn, you can set this card from your graveyard. You can only use each effect of Forced Release once per turn. So, pretty easy to see how this, integrates into your K9 combo line, right? You can set Forced Release off of either Ripper's effect or a case for K9's Destroy effect. But either way, during your opponent's turn, you could, in theory, use Ripper's effect to negate, one of their monster effects to activate in the hand or graveyard. Then, when they have a card on the field you want to destroy, activate Forced Release to turn that Ripper into Werewolf and then destroy that card. And then also don't forget, the next time your opponent goes to use a card or effect, you can activate Werewolf and then look at their hand and banish a card. So that is a lot of disruption all lined up back to back to back, right? Between Ripper's Negate, Forced Release Destroy, and then Werewolf Hand Rip. And it's pretty easy to see why K9 is such a good engine. This is a lot of the power of what its end board is going to be able to do. So you'll definitely want a copy of Forced Release for any K9 deck where you're planning on summoning Werewolf. But because this card is so searchable, and also because it resets itself, you really only just need the one copy is fine. Important, but only need one of it. K9 LC Release Restraint is another quick play spell for the archetype. It says target one K9 Xyz monster or one rank 5 Xyz monster you control. Special summon from your extra deck one K9 Xyz monster with a different name by using that monster you control. This is treated as an Xyz summon. Transfer its materials to the summoned monster. At the end of the battle phase, if your K9 monster battled this turn, you can set this card from your graveyard. You can only use each effect of LC Release Restraint once per turn. So this is definitely not as good as the other quick play spell. The idea here is that it's more flexible. You could in theory go from Werewolf back into a rank 5 or, between your rank 9s or between your rank 5s. But there's not really much of a need to do that, and the other quick play spell being able to destroy a card as well as let you go from a rank 5 to a rank 9 is definitely just much better. So, yeah, I don't think that there's too much debate. Actually, the Forced Release lets you go between any K9 Xyz monster as long as they have a different name. So, there's really not even that much upside to using Release Restraint as opposed to Force Release and getting to destroy a card. So, if you're playing a pure K9 deck, you could think about using a single copy of this, but I'm just going to say 0 for pretty much every K9 deck. And finally, the one K9 trap card, K9 EW Special Release Experiment. Says special summon a K9 monster from your hand or graveyard, then you can special summon a K9 Xyz monster from your extra deck by using that monster as material. This is treated as Xyz summon, but destroy the monster special summon from the extra deck during the end phase of the next turn. During the end phase, you can banish this card from your graveyard, then target one K9 quick play spell in your graveyard, set it. You can only use each effect of Release Experiment once per turn. So, it's a pretty situational extender, honestly. The fact that it's a trap card is just a little bit slow compared to the other quick play spells. Yeah, it lets you do different things, reviving a K9 from the graveyard, and then you could even go into Werewolf with it. But there are, again, other better ways to go into Werewolf in the Force Release, so I really don't think you'll end up needing this card. Much like the other quick play spell, Release Restraint, there are some pure K9 builds that opt to play a single copy of this, but even then, in pure K9, it's very optional. I'll say 0 for the most part as far as how many you want to play. Okay, now that we've covered K9 cards individually, I want to show you some sample builds. First though, I talked a little bit, especially towards the start of the video, about utilizing a hand trap engine for K9, one that was greatly reduced from the overall engine you're going to see in a lot of the builds. And I've got an example of that right here. So basically, if you're looking to just use the K9 Izuna as a hand trap, you can play as many of copies of her as are allowed, plus the Lupis. And then you have a couple of rank 5 options that you can go into utilizing these cards. The more common is going to be Balin the Super Sai Sky Blaster. Now, I don't believe this is actually out in Master Duel currently, but I would guess it's probably likely going to be released at the same time as K9. But this card is a very handy rank 5 to be able to go into, especially during your opponent's first turn. It says, during the main phase, quick effect, you can detach one material from this card, then target one face-up monster your opponent controls, change it to face-down defense position. So that's basically how you can use this as a hand trap to stop your opponent's plays even on their first turn. If at all during their combo line, they activate a monster effect in the hand or graveyard, you can special summon Izuna, activate Izuna, send Lupis from deck to graveyard, then use Lupis' quick effect to revive, and then use the other quick effect to Exceed summon into the Valin. A lot of these decks that are using this engine also have another rank 5 option, Tiras, Keeper of Genesis. This option is really good to go into if your opponent has the ability to battle. So not necessarily during their turn 1, but let's say they clear out some stuff on your board and then go to end their main phase and enter battle phase. Well, again, as long as they activated a card effect in the hand or a graveyard, you could in theory go Izuna, send and then summon Lupis, and then overlay into the Tiras. Then if they try to battle with the Tiras, 1, you've got a pretty sizable monster on the field. 2, at the end of the battle phase, you will be able to destroy a card your opponent controls. And remember that thanks to Lupis' effect, no matter whether you bring out Valin or Tiras, neither of these are going to be able to be targeted by card effects. So that's how you can use Izuna as a sort of hand trap engine in other decks. And there are plenty of decks, even decks like Yummy, that do actually make use of this engine. But as far as actual dedicated K9 builds go, I'm going to start by showing you a pure K9 list, and then I'll go into other variants. So pure K9, as I mentioned a couple times before, I don't think is necessarily the most optimal way to play K9, simply because this archetype pairs so well with so many other, established meta-relevant engines that, yeah, you have more room for hand traps, but that's pretty much the biggest pro to playing pure K9. Your end boards are going to be weaker as opposed to, certain other variants, and you're going to be a little bit more reliant on some off-engine support like the 7th Tachyon and the Disa Blaster, the Pendulum monster that we just looked at. So overall, I think pure K9 is an option you can try, but some of these other builds we're going to show here in a second are going to be better overall. Pure K9 can also get a little bit pricey in terms of some of these other cards you might require, right? Like the Disa Blaster is in Master Duel, but it is a UR. And then there's a lot of these rank 5s like the Artifact Durandal and the Nosh Engine, the Staryu Skull Dread. Although to be fair, pretty much everything I just listed you're going to use in other K9 variants as well. So if you weren't super interested in playing the deck pure, I'd probably go about it something like this. I think one of the stronger ways to play K9 is going to end up being with Vanquish Soul. This is the same K9 Vanquish Soul list that I showed off actually in my video where we talked about the new Vanquish Soul card. So this list has got the Master Duel, pre-hits already, factored in. So yeah, Vanquish Soul is going to play K9 engine pretty much every single time because not only does Vanquish Soul have a good amount of level 5 monsters, but all of the K9 attributes slot in very nicely with Vanquish Soul. One change I could see making to a build like this is adding more fire monsters, because with both Raisin and Xiaolong semi-limited, you're kind of low on that. The Rescue Ace, Impulse, and Fire Attacker would be pretty solid generic options for that I might end up trying, later on. This is, of course, as always, going to be a day 1 build, so not like necessarily the one I'm saying is going to be optimal moving forward. But yeah, as mentioned before, we're on the Nosh Night. as well as this like 104 engine as well. That's going to be a pretty big part of your end board, is going into the number 104 Masquerade. That not only lets you pop a case for K9, but it will also set up some pretty powerful negate effects during your opponent's turn. So definitely want to make sure that you've got Nosh and the CXC's Nosh Knights going into the release of K9. Some other URs that you might consider are the Artifact Durandale, as mentioned. Sorry, US Skull Dread is going to be used in a lot of Crystron builds. And then there's the Chronomaly. Well, we'll see it in this Crystron extra deck here in a second. Chronomaly has a pretty solid rank 5 that K9 can potentially go into as well. That's also a UR. But K9 Crystron is actually going to be one of the other big K9 decks you'll probably see pretty early on in this K9 meta, right? Or as one of the variants of the new K9 deck. Might not seem like it makes the most amount of sense at first until you remember just, how many of these level 5 monsters that Crystron actually has within its archetype. This build in particular also lets you set up the Crystron engine from your K9 support. You can use the Infinitrack rank 5 to set up Scrap Recycler, which can send your Smyger from the deck to the graveyard. So in this build, K9 not only helps like support you in your level 5s, but you can actually go K9 into Crystron plays. But we'll cover this a little bit more in depth, when the deck actually drops. But there's a lot of different ways you could build this extra deck in particular. This variant this build I have here is a lot more Xyz heavy, but you could play more synchro options if you're looking for those in your K9 Crystron deck. But just going to be another really solid variant moving forward into this release. Alright, that's going to do it for our super basic overview of the K9 archetype. We looked at all the cards and their roles, we looked at different builds and different ways to play K9, so hopefully as we go into our combo guide, whenever we get more of an official word on when this is going to release, you're feeling a little bit more prepared for the release of K9. As always, gotta give you a huge thanks to watching all the way towards the very end. Super appreciate that. It's very helpful for smaller channels like mine. And we, of course, have to give an extra huge special thank you to not only our YouTube members, but our Patreon subscribers. And remember, if you join as a YouTube member, you can see content like this and all other content here on the YouTube channel earlier than it is released. So thank you again for watching. Let's go ahead and move on to that outro. Hey everybody, Hexlex here. Thank you so very much for watching all the way to the very end of the video, which by the way is one of the best ways to support the channel. Speaking of supporting the channel, take a look at the names on screen. These are folks who have been so generous as to either join as a YouTube member or subscribe over on patreon.com/Hexlex to support. There's also perks for doing so. If you would like to see YouTube videos early, as well as some exclusive videos that get uploaded to YouTube, but for one reason or another I decide not to publish, definitely go ahead and hit that join button to see content early, as well as some exclusive content. If you're looking for more exclusive content, over on patreon.com, I upload exclusive videos that are not posted on YouTube just about every single day. Whether you choose to subscribe over on Patreon, join as a YouTube member, or simply continue to watch, your support is greatly appreciated. Thank you so very much. But for now, this is Hexlex. I am signing out, and I hope that you have a fantastic day.